Drake, hi, how's it going?
Doing well. How you doing, Charles?
All right. Tell me about the Winchesters. Tell me about Comic-Con.
Oh my
Was that your
gosh,
first con?
that was my first con. I've always wanted to go as like just a guest, but I promised myself as a kid that I wouldn't go until I was able to be on a panel. Because then I was like, you can experience both sides. Because I'm that person who like I want to know what's behind the closed door, or where they're like shuffling people off to. Like I want to know what's behind the curtain. And I knew that if I went, I would just be pissed off that I couldn't. So I know it was like a perfect opportunity to be able to go and experience all of that, and then getting to watch the pilot with everybody was like top five experiences in my entire life. Genuinely, it was fantastic.
Did you yourself see behind the curtain a little bit? Is it true that at the Comic-Con that you found out that you were cast in part because maybe you look a little bit like Sam and a little bit like Dean?
I actually had found that out before. It's a conversation that we had. Daniil has had with me several times of just like you just looked so similar to them. But I had found out in an interview that it was the performance that they felt like was very Sam and Dean, and I was like, oh,
Mm.
that's really cool because I was trying to take that into consideration when I was auditioning. So it was kind of like nice affirmation.
You have a lot of other traits too that we don't see very often. I mean, you're a strapping lad.
Well, thank you.
Actors tend to be on the smaller side, as you probably know.
Yeah, I found that out with some of my co-stars.
That's right. Meg is wonderful. I've interviewed her a number of times. She's really a truly giving, great person, but not the tallest person. So seeing you together, you have a bit of a height differential that
Yeah, she's getting used to. Well, she is very well acquainted with Apple boxes. She did a TV franchise, and her co-star was, I think, same height or relatively the same height. So she's used to that world.
how are you finding this whole experience?
No, I mean, I don't think surreal is a word that captures enough of what it is that I feel. The premiere that we went to for Meg for Zombies 3 was at this hangar in Santa Monica.
Mm.
Not 3 months prior to that premiere was I catering at that for the SAG Awards, that same hangar. Like literally, I was catering, and then having jumped 3 months forward, now being catered to in that same event space it was like it's the most surreal experiences I've ever had. I know exactly what they're serving. I know exactly what's in it. I know what's in the aioli sauce on the spicy tuna cones. It's like I know what it is because I that's what I did. So yeah, the experience has been incredible and surreal to say the least.
Oh, so what has this been like for you? How have you been taking it all in? How's it feeling?
I've been trying to stay present. This career in life in general is a very like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I think that's a really important thing to consider. But it's also like, man, you don't know how long these things last. And if this is all that I ever got to do, I want to make sure that I absorb as much of it as I can because it's such an incredible experience. And I get to work with such amazing people and such gifted and talented actors and directors and producers and a crew. Um, and so it's like I want to look. I'm staring out my apartment window right now at a city skyline in New Orleans, and I never thought I'd live here. I never thought I'd be here for any period of time, and it's like this is just crazy. So I think I'm just trying to stay as present as I can, soak up moments like Comic Con, soak up like moments at the premiere, and I pray that they continue to come. But if they don't, then I know that I got the most of it.
I've had a chance now to see the first two episodes.
Mm.
The first episode being your pilot that you shot first, and then your second episode where you got to be in a hippie commune.
Yeah.
And already, just from what I've seen, I'm seeing the development of the show, seeing what it is, what it's all about. I like that you got to do a bit of the Age of Aquarius, kind of have like that number. You were kind of the straight person in that, right? You didn't get to sort of dance and sing as much, but I'm really enjoying where the show is going. So tell me about what it's been like to build this world of the Winchesters.
Yeah, it's been incredible. It's been an amazing collaborative opportunity from the top down, meaning producers, executives. Everybody wants to collaborate. Everybody values our opinions as actors, which isn't always the case. So when it is, it's a really special thing. And so it's the collaboration and the creative side of it has been incredibly rewarding. Getting to tell a story, you know, a movie, you got an hour and a half or 2 hours, 2.5 hours if you're lucky, to tell a story. It's, you know, 4 episodes in, we're already, you know, approaching 3 hours of television, 3 hours of playing these characters.
Mhm.
So getting to do it over an expanded 13 episodes right now, hopefully more. It's really cool, and it's fun to kind of plan out like, hey, where are we going this season? Where like little what episodes can we hit these peaks, these highs, these lows, all leading to what? And that's been a really really cool journey that you don't really get to have very often.
So I've heard that by the end of 13 episodes, we figure out what it's leading towards. We've got
Yeah.
that hint. But along the way, I'm starting to figure it out. And I saw that, you know, every episode seems to be named for a song in
Mm.
the 60s and 70s. And, you know, you're building a world in 1972. What's it felt like for you to step back in time a little bit?
Oh, it's been so cool. We were on set yesterday, just surrounded by 1960s vehicles, and it's just and the colors are so vibrant, and so it's really easy to get into character when you're stepping literally back into the 70s. And then the music, like you're saying, like it was such a pivotal part of Supernatural. That's one of the things that Jensen specifically was like, we're hell bent on bringing this back. Like, the music has to tell the story, and we're doing that with the name titles. You know, it's been a lot of fun, honestly.
You look like you could be from that era.
Thank you.
I've heard about four. I'm supposed to ask about four. Episode four coming up. Um, Masters of War. You're going to get to, because in the show you're you've come from Vietnam. You're a war veteran, and apparently in that episode we're going to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
So I'm curious. Can you kind of set up that episode a little bit?
totally. Yeah. You know, shooting the pilot, one of the episodes that, or one of the scenes that was on the chopping block for a long time that Jensen himself, Robbie himself, like they had to fight for was the Vietnam scenes. They're expensive days to go out to the middle of nowhere and blow stuff up. It's expensive scenes to shoot, and it was really really important for Jensen, for Robbie, and for myself to show, not only just tell about John's Vietnam history, but to be able to show the audience, hey, this is what it was like. You need to see it, you know, because once if you can see something, and then when I'm talking about it, and you know what I'm talking about, it's that much more heavy and visceral. And in episode four, we get to go back to Vietnam in a really special way, where we're not driving up price, but we get to go back to Vietnam, and kind of explore a little bit more trauma-based memories and scenarios. I'm trying not to. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but it's a really really cool character episode for John. You'll really really get to understand his mentality a little bit more, what happened there, and how that's kind of affected his whole life, and how it affects the version of John Winchester you see in Supernatural.
I'm curious in part because the question was posed to you about what you'd be doing if you weren't an actor, and you said that you would have been in the military.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a catch-22, really. And I just had this conversation last night with a business partner, and yeah, my whole life I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. That's all I
Mm.
ever like grew up wanting to do, and for some reason at 17, I had this inkling of like, hey, I need to see what this whole acting thing's about. And then I realized pretty quickly that like I love this thing, and if I ever quit acting, I'd be a quitter. And to be in the military at that high of a level, like that's their thing. Is you know when shit gets hard, you can't quit. And if I ever decided to quit acting, it would be because it got too hard. And if I developed that habit for myself, then I would be a quitter, and that would be my default. My habitual thing would become, if things get too tough, quit. And I promise you, the military is a lot tougher than acting.
Mm.
So I would have quit it. And so I kind of became this catch-22 of like, well, now that I've started acting, I can't ever quit it, because if I quit, what will I ever actually accomplish or continue to do?
In the show, we accept that there are supernatural elements out
Mm.
there, you know, the unexplainable. You know, what we were just talking about was so sort of grounded in the reality. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? Like, do you have to buy into it? Do you believe in this?
Yeah, 100%. I grew up as a fan of the show, so pretending that there's ghouls and zombies and vampires was something I did as a child running around my bedroom after watching a couple episodes. So it wasn't hard for me to kind of fall into that space. And our sets are so creepy, and the prosthetic team, our makeup department, they're incredible. And the monsters that they create, they look so real. So it's really not difficult to act against those. And fortunately, we've not done much with green screens, which has been nice.
Mm. And I'm sure that the setting must inspire it too. You know, everything I hear about New Orleans, because Supernatural shot in Vancouver, when you move the production or when you're doing this production in New Orleans, I hear it's haunted. I hear that there's ghosts. I hear that there's history, living history that comes to life. How has that felt for you? What do you feel like being there?
Oh, it's a crazy environment. I mean, it is. There's signs all the time that says, for lease, and then under it, it'll say haunted. This city has ingrained in its culture is the voodoo, the black magic, the haunting, the ghosts. So it's definitely fitting for what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. The show's already hit. You know, people are really responding to it, even after a few episodes. What have you heard? Have you had a favorite fan response, a favorite fan encounter?
I mean, I'm just incredibly happy to know that people are enjoying it. That's fulfilling because it's we do this stuff in a bubble. We're out here working and with the same people every day and doing the same thing, and most of the time it goes like, we're on episode 8 before anyone saw anything, and it's like we have no idea if what we're doing is going to be liked or appreciated, and so to know that people like it, just it feels like an honor, and I feel just incredibly grateful all around.
Mm-hmm. Certainly working with an incredible team. You touched upon it. I'm going to ask about that. Tell me about Jensen. Tell me about working with Jensen.
It's been incredible. I've always had a level of respect for Jensen, and a level of almost starstruck, just growing up watching him, but having gotten to know him as a person, and as, if I can say, and I believe I can, as a friend and a mentor, my level of respect for that man has only grown. Him and Daniil both, but he's just an incredible person, an incredible businessman, and an incredible actor. I have nothing bad to say about Jensen. He's incredible.
Did you happen to see his arc on The Boys?
Oh yeah,
the Soldier Boy. I can imagine in real life he's the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, he is complete opposite. And I had the same experience meeting Jeffrey Dean Morgan, where I was like, man, you are the complete opposite of all of the characters that you play. And it's pretty interesting to see.
He also tends to play kind of shady characters sometimes. Yeah. So what's the dynamic like that you've picked it up, that we're getting to see, that it's not just you and Mary, or you and Meg, that you've built up? They keep calling your Scooby Gang.
Yeah, they call it the Scooby Gang. We call it on set and in our scripts, it's always been written as the Core Four.
You think of them. It's such a fun dynamic too. Yeah. And as I said, you're kind of playing the one that we maybe know either we know the least about, or you're the most sort of straightforward. But you've created such a fun dynamic between the four of you. How does that extend off the screen?
Oh, we're all. I mean, we were hanging out last night. We got drinks last night after set. Every day, like it truly, like, I have been so fortunate and so blessed on the few projects that I have worked with. The experiences with the cast have been incredible. But one thing that you consistently hear from veteran actors is like, hey man, not every set is like this. And you hear it all the time, and you're like, what do you mean? Like, and then you hear stories and you're like, wait, other sets people don't hang out outside of set. Other sets people aren't like off camera or even on camera. Like, we can barely hold it together during our takes. And we all are just like, it's scary. We're all becoming one. Nid and I can look at each other and I know exactly what she's thinking. Meg and I have been one person since the day we met. And it's really cool, man. It makes coming to work like you're working with friends, you're working with family. And that's, there's that cliche saying of when you love what you're doing, you're never working a day in your life. And I to expand upon that, when you love what you're doing and you love who you're doing it with, that is life. That is just living. And I'm beyond fortunate, beyond blessed, and I count those blessings every day.
Tell me again about some of the things that you would want to do on screen. I know we talked about the military, but I know you have a huge athletic background as well too. What kind of things have you not had a chance yet to do on screen that you'd like to try?
Oh man, I would love to do, as far as episodes go, eventually, and I'm pressuring Robbie Thompson, our showrunner, every day. I ask him, I'm like, hey, when do I get baby? When do I get the Impala? But I would love to. There's an episode of Supernatural that the entire episode takes place in the Impala. And I would love to do an episode like that. I'd love to do some stunt driving episodes in that same vein where I can go out with the stunt team here and the stunt car drivers and figure out how to drift, how to drive, and then we can place cameras inside the car and really just do a full episode of, I don't know, a car chase or something like that. But outside of that, man, anything stunt based is really really fun. Any of the emotional heavy stuff is always a blast as an actor. But the truth is, on this show, everything that I want to do, we get to do. Not many opportunities you get like that, where it's like we get to do it all. We have such a large spectrum, and again, our showrunner and our producers are so incredibly collaborative that we have check-in conversations about every week or every 2 weeks of like, hey, what ideas do you have? You know, and they'll ask us that, and they're accepting of what we have to offer, and so we get to do everything that we really want to do.
Nice. I remember one thing I wanted to ask you because of the songs, because every episode is named for a song. You know, maybe for some of these songs, it's sort of going back and, you know, learning them or hearing them for the first time. But what kind of music drives you? What kind of stuff are you into?
I've always my family have always been into like the 70s, 80s rock and roll. Like I grew up on AC/DC, Metallica, you know, all of those sticks, everything.
Yeah.
So this world is very familiar. Unfortunately, some of those are a little bit later 70s or early 80s. We won't be breaching those songs for a while. But you know, I've gotten with this show, I've gone back to music in the 60s. And there's a lot in the 60s that is just, it's really really good, and I'm excited to kind of get to, it's so cool to tell a story through music, and because there's so many shows out now that have done it so well, and the new seasons of Stranger Things did it really really well, but just like playing music and playing the same song over and over and over at different emotional peaks of your character's journey, and it's just like it's cool. It's a cool mode.
Nice. I'm just kind of picturing you, you know, rocking out to Too Much Time on My Hands or Mr. Roboto or, you know, something else kind of Styx related. That sounds awesome too.
Meg and I are listening to a lot of Bob O'Reilly to get back in the headspace. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Can picture that for sure. Just wanted to say overall that, you know, I really do feel that way, that, you know, you feel like one of those people where it's just like you're heading towards the stratosphere, and it's really cool to get a chance to get to know you and to hear a little bit about what you've had to say on this journey. So I really want to wish you the best from here.
Well, Charles, thank you so much, and that's genuinely, it means a lot for you to say that. So I appreciate that.